Hi to all of you. Welcome back to another episode of Brian's Run Pod. And before we dive into today's interview with the incredible Jana Barrett, I just wanted to take a moment to say a big heartfelt thank you to all of my listeners. Honestly, I'm blown away by the reach of this podcast from all over the UK and America to Germany, India, Indonesia, Spain, Ireland and Australia, and lots of other countries I haven't mentioned. Your support is what keeps this podcast going, and I hope you're all enjoying the content as much as I enjoy bringing it to you. Now, about today's episode, I'm really excited for you to hear this one. I had the pleasure of chatting with Jana Barrett, a body movement specialist who also describes herself as a feminine warrior. I do have to start with a quick apology for pronouncing her name wrong at the beginning. She was kind enough to correct me, so all sorted there. Jana offers a truly unique style of training, and I think you're going to find her approach as fascinating as I did. I split the podcast into two parts for this episode. So in the first part, Jana talks about her journey with exercise and how she discovered this new exercise regime focused on mobility. In the second part, we dive deeper into her role as a TACFIT instructor and what that means for her training philosophy. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. And I really do hope you enjoy our chat as much as I did. So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name's Brian Patterson and I'm here to help. And welcome to Brian's Run Pod. So, hey there, running enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of Brian's Run Pod, where we dive into inspiring stories of local runners, athletes, and experts on the world of fitness. I'm your host, Brian Patterson, and today we have a truly special guest who's not only transformed her own life through movement, but is also empowering countless women to do the same. Now, as you know, I'm all for interviewing guests that can provide alternative to traditional forms of training. So anyway, back in 2002, Jana Barrett made a life-changing move to New Zealand and embraced the joys and challenges of motherhood with 3 beautiful children. And like many of us, she found herself caught up in the whirlwind of daily life, where personal care took a back seat to family and responsibilities. Fast forward 10 years, and Jana found herself dealing with aches, pains, and realization that she had forgotten about her own well-being. But Jana didn't let that be her story's end. Frustrated and determined, she took a bold step by hiring her first trainer, and that decision sparked a profound transformation. Within months, Jana felt not just physically stronger, but mentally unstoppable. This newfound strength ignited a passion in her to help others, leading her to become a personal trainer herself. Today, Jana is the first and only certified female TACFIT trainer instructor in New Zealand, a proud badge she wears with honor. She's also certified in personal training, kettlebell instruction, strength and conditioning, and Jana's mission is clear: to empower women to nurture and move their bodies, enabling them to live their lives to the fullest. We'll be diving deep into her journey, discussing the power of empowerment, power of movement, and how she's building a tribe of strong, amazing women capable of taking on the world. So lace up your running shoes and get comfortable, and let's get inspired by the incredible Jana Barrett. Welcome to the podcast. That's quite an introduction.
It is, yeah. And sorry, Brian, I didn't tell you that my name is pronounced Jana.
Jana, sorry, I do apologize.
I normally say that. My biggest apologies.
Yeah. So anyway, Jana, how are you today?
I am great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. So I just wanted to start off really by finding out a little bit about your kind of relationship with exercise at school or growing up.
So I grew up in the communist Czech Republic.
Oh, right. Oh, I see.
So I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. So I had a really blessed childhood in a way that it was a very wild one in the countryside.
Yeah.
So I was actually not involved in any structured sport activities.
Yeah.
I had a bike and we ice skated and we ran around, we built forts, we just had a very unstructured kind of wild childhood where we basically weren't allowed to come home in the weekends. You know, we were given a sandwich and sent on our merry way with a group of other children.
Yeah.
And came back when the church struck 5:00 in the evening.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. And what sort of things were you doing?
So we rode our bikes everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
To no good. We country stole fruit from orchards.
Okay.
We built forts in the forest. We foraged for berries in the woods.
Yeah.
We swam in winter. We ice skated and skied, cross country skied. It was just a very beautiful kind of wild.
Was there any sort of like at school? Was there any kind of was physical exercise part of the curriculum? Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah. We played games mainly. It was a while ago, Brian.
Okay.
But no, we did. I remember high school PE too. It was, we did country running and did a little bit of gymnastics and just what probably children do even, now here in New Zealand, quite similar.
Yeah. So sort of fast forward a few years then, so when you left school, or did you do any sort of exercise when you were in university or in your working life early on?
No, I didn't. So I went to university and studied early childhood teaching and then primary school teaching.
Right, okay.
We had PE just as a part of the course. It was quite similar to what we did in high school. And then I moved to Britain where I became a nanny of 3 very busy boys.
Oh, right.
But
okay.
I never really, till probably I had my own children, I never actually really engaged in any structured exercise like the gym or purposely running or doing any kind of sport. So I really just started doing that when I moved to New Zealand, had my own family.
Right. So, I mean, as I said in the introduction, so you kind of, I mean, exercise wasn't really in your life in the first, after you left school, or after you had any university, it wasn't really. So, what was that point where you felt that maybe something needs to change?
So I was a busy mum of 3 children, and that's a reasonably active job. I've moved to New Zealand, and New Zealand and New Zealanders really take advantage of the environment we live in.
Yeah,
New Zealand is incredibly active people. Everybody's walking, hiking, surfing, biking. Yeah. Skiing, snowboarding. It's a very active nation and a country. So, and my children were really active. They signed up for heaps of sports. They were playing cricket and football, doing gymnastics, swimming, surf lifesaving. So I realized quickly that I'm going to have to keep up with these kids if I wanted to be, an active, fun mom. And I started, because I was busy, the kids were small, and I was doing a little bit of yoga and running, actually. Right?
Okay.
I was running.
Okay.
I was running because my husband then had a very busy career in the film industry. And
oh, right. Oh, I see.
A lot of time. So I was one of those people that I had to fit in exercise very early in the morning before he went to work. Before then I, looked after the children full time.
Yeah.
So I was running the trails at a crack of dawn, and I am very fortunate. I live on a peninsula in Wellington, and I have beautiful trails all around here.
Yeah.
And so I just done up my sneakers 3 to 5 times a week and just went for a little 20 to kind of 40-minute trail run.
Oh, right. Very nice. Can I ask, was the reason you moved to New Zealand, was it because of your husband's job, or is it just something, was a decision you made collectively as a couple?
So my husband is a New Zealander, so I came here for
right.
then met him here.
Oh, I see.
Stayed here It was 22 years ago, and I'm still here. I've treated, three little New Zealanders living, as children. So it's quite fun.
Oh, right. Okay. So you've kind of, I said in the introduction is that you decided to employ a personal trainer. What brought you to that decision at the time?
I think my body went through 3 pregnancies in 3 years, and my body was broken. I was not strong. I was constantly in pain. I had aches in places, and I was constantly putting my back out because, dealing with small children is a physically very challenging job.
Yeah.
You are carrying, little car seats with babies. You're putting them in seats in the cars, that all the lifting, twisting. You're on the floor a lot, and my body just wasn't up for it. And I remember my youngest was like 6 months old, and my husband just left on a 5-day fishing trip where he had no telephone reception.
Oh, right.
Put my back out in a spectacular fashion. I had to just lie down on the floor for hours. I was in so much pain. And there was the deciding moment. There was like that ice cream on the floor moment. And I thought, that's it. I'm just not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Need to do something about this. And then literally after the injury has resolved, I hired my first personal trainer.
All right. Okay. And so was it kind of like going to be kind of like a once a week thing, and then you kind of added it onto your existing exercise regime?
Yes. So I worked out twice a week with her, just locally, and I was still running a little bit, and I loved yoga. I think I loved yoga it was time for me, and it was a bit of stillness and a bit of space for me in the chaos that, the beautiful chaos that young families are, where you're giving a lot. So I love my yoga. I really did. And I was still running and then doing strength training at the gym, weightlifting with a trainer.
I mean, my kids are roughly about the same age, probably to yours. So I have 2 girls, but I know it is kind of quite a pressure. Although we look fondly to those days, but at the time, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of pressure going on, and stress, and everything like that. So,
and also a little time to yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Which is special,
Yeah. So was it that you thought that, you've had this training from the person that you thought, well, I could do this, I could do this. Was that after a few months or?
Yes, it was about 3 months mark, and I realized how much stronger I became, not only physically, but I was loving the mental strength and the resilience and the grit that the weightlifting brought. Like, it was a challenge. It was something that I was doing just purely for me, and I loved it. And I really appreciated that mental strength that comes from it. And I think more women need to know about this, because obviously I had a lot of friends who had young children, and you often forget themselves and put themselves really last in families, and their bodies suffer. Because now I coach women in their 40s and 50s, and so I get women that just have never really found their exercise routine again, having children. And I thought, I was looking at a bit of a change of career. I didn't want to go back to teaching because I had small children at home. And I thought, well, why don't I do personal training? It's still teaching. It will be flexible. I can choose my own hours. It will be a great job. And then I can help women find not only the physical strength, but the mental strength as well.
Yeah. And I suppose in a way you're kind of incorporating the two. You're choosing something that you're very kind of passionate about, but also incorporating the career that you had. So in terms of teaching, correction, that kind of things, very same principles, but, to adults as opposed to children.
Yeah. A lot of crossover. I'm still teaching, different demographic and different content, but it's pretty much still teaching.
So how did it feel going back to I mean, your career was teaching, and obviously you went through a degree, but then you had to go back to learning again. How does that feel at the time?
I loved it. I loved the challenge because, by that stage, I spent years and years, almost a decade really looking after children. And I was mentally challenged in a different way, but not really intellectually challenged, unless I found my own, reading books and things like that. So I loved it. I loved the subject matter. I forgot how much I loved chemistry at school as well, because, I was obviously studying biochemistry in my personal training course.
All right.
How energy is produced and what needs to happen and macronutrients. And I was kind of like, I used to love chemistry at school. It was so interesting. And just learning about different exercises and putting programs together. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was 6 months. It was quite part-time, so I was able to fit it around family life too, which was what I really needed. But yeah, loved it. Loved being challenged, loved learning new things, and just thinking about all the clients that were like literally waiting for me to qualify and start working. And then I could just go and change people's lives in the way that my personal trainer changed mine.
All right. So you had a ready-made market as soon as you finished. So.
Yeah, I had a lot of people interested, a lot of friends. First I started with friends, and then I started working at a gym.
Yeah.
In a traditional kind of weightlifting, backs and legs, kind of, really typical traditional kind of weightlifting. And I didn't realize that women are actually quite scared to go to the gym, and a lot of them are quite intimidated. But if you
I can understand that,
that who's waiting for you is also a woman inside the gym, there was that barrier that I removed for a lot of women, and I loved it. And I just still to this day, I get so excited about people's results and transformations. And now, I do slightly different things. I probably get people more out of pain now. In those days, I was still doing weight loss and just general conditioning and weightlifting. Now I do quite different type of training. And so, but the transformations are amazing. That's what gets me out of bed every day. I really believe that that's my purpose in life. It's to empower women and to get people out of pain.
Do you think that's just the trend in terms of fitness? It's moved away from that kind of strength and conditioning and weight loss. It's moved into kind of other areas of injury prevention, rehabilitation, that kind of thing. Is that?
Yes, I've really noticed a massive shift around COVID. I think people realized that, especially at our age, so between that 45 and 60, which is where most of my clients are, I think that there is a massive shift now to using exercise as a longevity tool and a modality to be able to live a very full, vibrant life for as long as people possibly can. And so people are more now conscious of leaving the kind of the past where women, especially women, were generally exercising to look a certain way and to lose weight, to be skinny. And, now you see women are, going to gyms and lifting heavy weights to preserve the strength of their bones and lean muscle mass, to avoid dementia and Alzheimer's, to prevent heart disease, to have
bone density and
everything. And the research is literally just pouring out as well now. There's so much stuff, the studies and research coming out basically weekly about how exercise is one of the most potent things you can do for your health. And not just physical health, but mental health, emotional health, brain health, or cognitive health. And I think we're becoming more and more, we are the generation that's becoming more and more, especially as women, more aware of watching our grandmothers and mothers age. And we don't want to age like that.
Yes.
We don't want to age in assisted living where we don't remember things and we are frail and we're constantly breaking our bones because we have osteoporosis, I think we're now choosing to do everything possible to age, while doing anything we choose and living in our own homes.
Yeah. Very good point. I just want to come to is it a TACFIT instructor?
Yeah, TACFIT is short for tactical fitness.
Oh, tactical fitness. Could you explain a little bit more about that and how you came across it?
So I discovered TACFIT first through a colleague of mine that was working in the same gym. And I was still weightlifting and doing that type of training for myself and for my clients. But I was just being a bit bored with it after a few years. And although I was much stronger, I was still quite achy. I still had achy back time to time, and I had quite a bit of injuries, and I had a lot of tension in the body. And I was just starting to look at some other ways to exercise. And then I saw this man in the gym, and he was swinging a club bell. And I was looking at him, and he was doing a lot of mobility. He was doing like really beautiful mobility flows with his clients, and he was running small group classes. And I was looking at him, and I thought, wow, that looks way more interesting than anything I'm doing in the gym, barbells and dumbbells. Because when you imagine, so the club bell is basically looks like a baseball bat, but it's made out of metal.
Yeah.
Audience can't see it, but you can see them behind me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like a baseball bat, but it's made out of metal. And you can swing it around the body and you can do flows with it. So you can transition from exercise to exercise, like from a squat to a lunge to a press, all in one continuous flow. And I was watching him and I thought, that's so interesting. And it made a lot more sense to me as a exercise to build kind of really strong humans all around for life or for sport. And so I booked a session with him and he put me through a TACFIT workout, and I just never looked back. I said, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go back to the barbells. This is so boring, and I don't think it really gets people fit for like something like surfing. Like when you think about surfing, I have to do so many different things while I surf, and a deadlift and an overhead press with a barbell will never get me fit for that.
Yeah.
And then I started training with him and learning about mobility, which was massively missing out of my routine. And I was kind of like, this is making me feel so good. And my shoulders are moving well, and I'm losing all the tension and all the stiffness. And I'm moving like I'm a young person again. And then all these tools like TACFIT works with kettlebells and club bells, and now they've introduced steel mace as well, which is my biggest love. And I thought this is brilliant. Like, I need to bring this to more people. And at that stage, TACFIT was still very focused on the tactical community. So a lot of and I traveled to the US to certify in it, the creator of it. And there are very clever people like, Scott Sonnen, who wrote TACFIT, was in Russia like 10 years studying their special forces and how they dealt with exercise and stress. And it was a phenomenal body of work. But at that time, it was very targeted for so either the tactical community, so the soldiers, the policemen, firemen. And it was all like, even all their website was very much about big, strong, muscly, extremely fit men. But I wanted to do TACFIT for normal people.
Yeah.
Just mums and dads, people that were in their 40s or 50s or 60s. So I kind of modified it slightly to just normal people. Yeah. And then just after I certified, I love TACFIT to this day. I think it's one of the most superior way how to condition the human body, either for life or for any sport, however complex that sport is.
Because the thing I like about it is that it's like a dance. And also the other thing is that it really incorporates those stabilizing muscles, which maybe traditional strength training doesn't do, and that's like you were talking, just incorporating what you were saying earlier about lifting children, that kind of thing, or even in your working life, lifting boxes or that kind of thing. It helps you prepare you for those movements.
Absolutely. And I think that what also these functional tools really focus on building the strength in your joints and connective tissue, and also using the body as a whole unit. So it doesn't make sense to me that you would go to gym and you would do back and chest, because in daily life, when you think about someone running through a forest,
they're
using every single muscle in their body. When I surf, I use every single muscle.
Especially when you're doing surfing,
The synergy is a symphony of everything working together. So it never made sense to me to be isolating muscle groups and putting them under so much tension in a very two-dimensional way, because traditional way were about up and down, side to side. But once you start swinging the steel mace or the club bell, you quickly realize that you can access multi-directional movements. But that's how life works, right? Sometimes you have to catch a child that's falling off a swing, and you're lunging, you're pushing, you're pulling, you're using power and agility, and that's what life is about. And the human body is just so complex and so beautifully designed, and I think we don't do it any justice in gyms.
I mean, I will include links to your website and also other maybe YouTube videos showing this, because I particularly liked the one which is on your website where I think there's that drone shot of you on the beach doing it. I could watch that for ages, but it was beautiful. It looks really lovely.
I think it really appeals to our primal DNA, because the steel mace has been around since the beginning of dawn, right?
Yeah.
The beginning of humans, because humans stripped rocks to sticks to hunt and defend themselves. So I think somehow it's actually wired into our ancestral DNA. And the steel mace has been around for thousands of years. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's just that we in the West didn't know about it, and it's slowly coming and kind of, seeping into more of the conventional fitness styles.
Yeah. So it's kind of like going back in time, as it were, going back to our roots, the traditional exercises that we were doing. And that's a wrap for another exhilarating episode of Brian's Run Pod. Thanks for tuning in, folks. As always, we've got your back with all things running. And next week, get ready for some awesome beginner hints and tips to kickstart your running journey. Oh, and before we sign off, exciting news. We're now available on YouTube. So whether you're pounding the pavement or chilling at home, you can catch us there too. Plus, we have a new feature on the podcast. You can now send me a message. Yep, you heard it right. Brian's Run Pod has become interactive with the audience. If you look at the top of the episode description, tap on send us a text message. You can tell me what you think of the episode, or alternatively, what you would like covered. If you're lucky, I might even read them out on the podcast. Hey, if you want to keep up with the latest updates, behind the scenes fun, and even some exclusive content, make sure to follow me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, or should I say X, at Brian's Run Pod. We've also just launched a shiny new Facebook page. Simply search for Brian's Run Pod and give us a like. And don't forget to hop on over to Instagram, where you can catch all our visual adventures at Brian's Run Pod. For those of you who love diving deep into the episodes, head over to our website, www.briansrunpod.co.uk, and there you'll find detailed show notes, handy chapter markers, make it too easy to navigate through our favourite discussions. Please leave a review, as it will always help others find this podcast. Music is by Happy Days by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.